Hello and welcome to the backfield. I'm your host, Connor Schaff. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. The regular season of the college football season is finally done, and we just had an absolutely unbelievable college football playoff or college football week, rivalry week. Oh man, this was just unreal to watch, unreal to see unfold in front of our eyes, and I am so excited to talk about it. And we have a lot of interesting things to go through. Where Texas will be in the rankings, where Texas A&M will be in the rankings. Will Miami finally jump Notre Dame? Who are the teams that are in? Who are the teams that are out? Etc. And we're also going to talk a bit about how the committee has absolutely screwed themselves over. If you watched my video from last Thursday or Friday, or Wednesday or Thursday, definitely wasn't Friday, I don't remember exactly when I posted, but I went on a bit of a rant about the college football playoff committee and their rankings this year and how they've dug themselves into a hole, and we are really about to see that whole play out, and I'm going to explain why in just one moment. But before we do that, I do just want to ask you guys, please make sure to like and subscribe. It all helps grow the channel, helps me do more content, and I really appreciate all that kind of stuff. So interact with the video in any way you can. It is so very much appreciated. Thank you all. But we will start off by going over the very unimportant selection committee criteria at this point. This is directly from the College Football Playoff Committee website, and I'm not even going to read this off because it's clear that the committee do not value the system that they have put into place. When I say that, I mean that the committee has put absolutely zero care into things like head-to-head, common opponents, or resume at any state compared to the eye test. What other thing could explain why Notre Dame is ranked ahead of Alabama and Miami? What else could explain how BYU is ranked so low? What else could explain many things? It's just they've created such an absolute mess by only using the eye test. There's a reason why power rankings and resume rankings should be kept separate. But what we'll do first is do what the committee does every week and do what I do on this channel every week and go through every single team that has a chance to be ranked. And we're down to 32 teams now, and we'll go conference by conference to explain this. So we start with the American Conference. We still have 4 teams in the hunt, that it being Tulane, North Texas, Navy, and South Florida. All 4 of these teams get a win. Of course, Tulane and North Texas winning means that they have locked their spots in the American Championship, and presumptively whoever wins will lock their spot into the college football playoff. Navy and South Florida both have okay resumes. I definitely think South Florida has the better resume, even though I do want to say that Navy has a head-to-head win. They both have okay resumes. They're in the hunt to be ranked, but I highly doubt they will be. Next, we have the ACC, where we really have 3 teams in the hunt to be ranked, but I think we have to mention this 4th one just because we obviously have Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Miami, but we also have Duke somehow, some way making the ACC championship and has the potential to make the college football playoff. Now, I'll talk about that a bit more in the other video that I'll be releasing probably within the next couple hours after this one comes out, if even that, which is my playoff predictions, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But Duke, if they end up winning the ACC, they will be ranked. They won't be ranked this week, but they at least have to be on the list. Then we have the Big 12. We have BYU, Houston, Texas Tech, Arizona, and Utah all in the conversation to be ranked. All of these are pretty self-explanatory. They're all 9-3 or better teams. Then we have the Big 10, where we have Indiana, Illinois, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Iowa, and Oregon. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory as well. I know Iowa and Illinois are 8-4, but they still have resumes, and the committee clearly likes both of these teams. Then we have the SEC, who has 9 teams still: Texas, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, and Georgia. It's the same thing with Missouri and Tennessee as Iowa and Illinois. Every other team is 9-3 or better. And then we have the others, where we're down to just 3. I will say I'm recording this while both the Notre Dame Stanford game and the UNLV Nevada game are still going on. I don't think UNLV really has a chance to be ranked, but given that they are a 10-2 team in the Mountain West, I feel that they at least deserve a shout out, especially when they have wins over a Power 4 UCLA team, which clearly the committee respects that kind of win. But we'll start by getting into 21 through 25, and I just want to say, this has to be the most difficult ranking I have done in a very long time. I have done a ranking for every single week of this college football season, and let me just tell you, none of those rankings have come even close to how difficult this one was to do, especially in the 5 through 15 range, and I will actually be going through 2 scenarios of what 5 through 15 could look like because I'm so unsure of what it could look like. But let's start with 21 through 25. I think that 19 through 25 of these rankings is very much a toss-up. So I'll tell you what I think it's going to look like, and I'll tell you some other teams that I think could be in the hunt. I have Iowa ranked here at 25. For me, it was pretty much a toss-up between them and Missouri, but it seems to me that the committee likes Iowa. They had a very close loss to Oregon. They had a very close loss to Indiana. They had a very close loss to USC. And I want to say their other loss was to Iowa State. So that's not, Iowa State's an 8-4 team as well. It's not the best of losses to have, but it was on the road. It's a rivalry game. It's not the end of the world. I think that there's a good chance they'll be ranked. Then Illinois, I think they have the best resume of any 8-4 team. They have a win over what will be a top 18 USC team. And overall, and 3 of their losses are to Washington, Ohio State, and Indiana, who are all 8-4 or better teams. At 23, I actually have Georgia Tech, which means despite losing, they actually don't move down a single spot in my rankings. And at the end of the day, losing on a neutral field to Georgia by 1 score should not be scoffed at all. I have every single 9-3 or better Power 4 team ranked, as I think they deserve to be. And I think that the committee will respect that as well. So I think Georgia Tech will still be ranked. And I think they'll be ranked ahead of these 2 8-4 teams. At number 22, I finally have North Texas moving into the rankings. Now, I've been a pretty firm believer that the committee wouldn't be ranking them to this point, and I have been correct. I know many people are going to be unhappy that James Madison probably still won't be ranked. I do think that these 8-4 teams will be ranked ahead of James Madison. I definitely hope I get proven otherwise, but the reason why I view that to be the case is because I think the committee really do not want to approach the idea of whether they would put in an 8-5 conference champion Duke or a 12-1 conference championship James Madison. Now, once again, like I said, we'll talk about a little bit more why that argument could be smart or could be pretty stupid in my playoff prediction video, but for now, we'll talk a bit about North Texas here, who are at this point an 11-1 team. They are clearly a good football team. Their one loss is to South Florida, who is also clearly a good football team. That wasn't a good loss for them. It was a dominant loss, but I do think they'll come in here at 22. And then 21, we have Tulane moving up the rankings. So I honestly think they could be even higher, but I kind of struggled what to do in this range. And to explain the rest of that, I'll give 19-20 as well. I have Houston not only moving into the rankings, but moving all the way up to 19, just because I kind of think the committee is going to want to respect the head-to-head of Houston over Arizona, given that Houston directly beat Arizona earlier in the season, and they have pretty similar resumes. Arizona has... Technically, neither of them has a ranked win. Both of them, their best win is probably over Arizona State. And I guess Houston's one ranked win is over Arizona. So I'm not really sure why the committee have been so bullish on ranking Houston so far. I definitely think they deserve to be ranked at this point as a 9-3 team. But I wouldn't be surprised if they rank Arizona at 19, Tulane at 20, and Houston at 21 to build a buffer there. And then at number 18, we have Michigan. I think Michigan will drop down slightly. I originally had them ahead of Virginia, but I think just because of how dominant the loss was and the fact that it was at home to Ohio State, and it was their first loss to them in 5 or 6 years, I think that they'll probably fall behind Virginia. They also don't have a single ranked win on their resume. Their best win is over Washington, who I think are ranked around the 35 to 40 range, if I had to guess, but nowhere near the rankings. Which means that Virginia moves ahead of them. I think that the committee are definitely going to be rooting for Virginia in the ACC championship because that would save them a lot of problems. But Virginia gets the job done against Virginia Tech. They seem to be very informed. Chandler Morris is having a great season, so I think that this is a pretty fair ranking for them. And USC survives a bit of a scare versus UCLA. They were down at halftime in that game. Nico Iamaleava had a very good game, but they managed to pull it out. They're not going to be a playoff team, but they sit here as a buffer team at 16 for sure. And now we move into 11 through 15, and just be prepared. This is one of two scenarios. So don't take a look at this and think that this is exactly what I think is going to happen for sure. This is definitely the way I'm starting to think that I'm leaning towards a little bit, and I'll explain why here once we get to the rankings. And I'm sure you can start to see the glaring problem with this, and it explains why the committee have trapped themselves. BYU as an 11-1 team with a win over number 15 Utah, number 19 or number 20 Arizona are at 12. And I don't know what to do about BYU at this point because in no world do BYU deserve to be ranked at 12. But do BYU have a better resume than Texas at this point? Maybe. But I feel like the issue is Texas has a better resume than Vanderbilt, Miami, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame. Even as a 3-loss team. They have a better resume than all 5 of those teams. But because BYU have been put at 11, despite only having 1 loss to a top 5 team, then how do you equate BYU's resume to Texas's? Because I don't think that BYU had a worse resume than Alabama, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame. But they were ranked behind those 3 schools. So, and we'll talk a bit more about why Texas is ahead in a second as well. But I will get through these first. At 15, we have Utah. Utah are a clear buffer team at this point. I'd be shocked if Vanderbilt doesn't pass them. Vanderbilt is here at 14. I definitely feel bad because they get the big win over Tennessee. They look great in that game. Diego Pavia, if I had a vote, I would give him the Heisman. He's been unbelievable this year. But it's just tough because now that I don't have Tennessee ranked anymore, they have 0 ranked wins. So it's not amazing for them. Then Miami here at 13. It's another tough one. I have them moving down a spot despite them crushing Pittsburgh. Hopefully the committee correct themselves and put Miami ahead of Notre Dame and save us a whole lot of trouble, but I find that to be quite unlikely at this point. Then we have BYU at 12, Alabama at 11. We'll move into 6 through 10 just so we can explain this. Oklahoma's here at 10, Texas here at 9, Notre Dame here at 8, Ole Miss at 7, and Oregon at 6. So let me explain the predicament here. The committee are now in a situation where they have one of 2 options. They can, if they do not put Texas in a college football playoff spot, they are telling the country that they should not schedule difficult out-of-conference games anymore. And that is something that could be absolutely detrimental to the sport. Way more detrimental than putting a 3-loss team in the playoffs. Why would I watch a game between Texas and UTSA compared to a Texas and Ohio State? Those are the type of games, Texas versus UTSA, is what we're probably going to get a lot more of if Texas doesn't make the playoff. If Texas was a 10-2 team with wins over a top 5 Georgia, a top 5 Texas A&M, a top 10, oh wait, never mind, they don't have a win over Georgia, I'm sorry, a top 5 Texas A&M, a top 10 Oklahoma, and a top 15 Vanderbilt, the one team in the entire country to have 3 top 15 wins. And they missed the playoff because they played Ohio State. That team, even with the loss to Florida, obviously the Florida loss is bad, but if they are a 10-2 team with those 3 wins, as well as just 2 losses, one of them being to a top 5 Georgia, one of them being to Florida, they would easily be in the playoff. They would be at 8 right now. They would be ahead of Notre Dame. So here's my thought process. The committee does not punish Texas in any way for playing Ohio State. And they put them in the top 10. They give them their head-to-head tiebreaker over Oklahoma. Obviously, Oklahoma still has a tiebreaker over Alabama. They put them behind Notre Dame because obviously they love Notre Dame. It gives Notre Dame a buffer into the playoffs. And it'll punish Texas still for losing a non-conference game, while still respecting their willingness to play in this game. So let's talk about the other scenario, though. In this scenario, Texas would not be making the playoffs. And the big change here is that Texas would be behind BYU instead of ahead of BYU. And this is where I find it very difficult. I do think that Texas will still jump Miami and still jump Vanderbilt and still jump Utah. Obviously, Texas has a head-to-head win over Vanderbilt. I'd be very surprised if Vanderbilt is ranked ahead. Miami, Texas just clearly have the better resume than. Miami has 2 bad losses. Texas only has 1. If Miami played Texas' schedule, they'd probably be 7-5. So I hate to play the hypothetical game. It's really unfair to play the hypothetical game. But when the committee, in a lot of ways, is clearly playing the hypothetical game, aka would Notre Dame or Alabama win a head-to-head matchup on a neutral field? Notre Dame. So we're going to rank Notre Dame ahead. Then we kind of have to do it in our projections as well. And so, but I think that in this scenario, Texas is ranked behind BYU. And I'll be honest, I do not think there is any in between here. I think either Texas is ranked at 12 or 8 or 9. I think there's a chance that they'll move even ahead of Notre Dame. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think they'll either be ranked at 12 or 9. No in between. So either they're making the playoffs or they're not making the playoffs. At this point, there is no chance to move up past this mark for Texas. There's no chance to move past this mark for BYU unless they can win their conference championship game. That would then demote Alabama, unless they win their conference championship, out of the playoffs. And if Alabama and BYU win, it would demote Oklahoma out of the playoffs. And yeah, it leads to a pretty crazy scenario here. And one thing you can see is either way here, I think Notre Dame will jump Oklahoma. Oklahoma looked so bad against LSU. I can't even describe. John Mateer does not look like the same player all since coming back from injury. He looked awful in that game. It's honestly part of why I think that this scenario here is possible. Because I think the committee really are going to try and squeak Oklahoma out of the playoffs. And in this situation, if Alabama wins the conference championship game, which I think they're going to be favored in because Alabama always seems to have Georgia's number, then Oklahoma would be out of the playoffs, which I think is what the committee kind of wants at this point. But let's get into the top 5 and stop rambling on for too long. In the top 5, we have Ohio State at 1, Indiana at 2, Georgia at 3, Texas A&M at 4, and Texas Tech at 5. Texas Tech is 11-1, not 10-1, and those top 2 teams are 12-0. I clearly have no ability to edit these graphics. That is so sad. But obviously, the top 2 are locked in. Whoever wins the conference championship game will be the 1 seed. honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the other is still the 2 seed. Georgia is here at 3. They jumped Texas A&M, but I actually still have Texas A&M ahead of Texas Tech. I think that Texas A&M still has a technical better resume than Texas Tech. Texas Tech has a win over what I think will probably be number 11 BYU, number 15 Utah, and number 19 Houston. Texas A&M has a win over number 8 Notre Dame on the road, but they have a much better loss than Texas Tech, which is what I think will be the difference maker. Texas lost to, or Texas A&M lost to Texas at Texas, while Texas Tech, man, I cannot speak all of a sudden, lost to Arizona State, and that game was played at Arizona State. Still, it's just not a good loss for them. So I think it's very much a toss-up, but I think the committee are going to favor giving the SEC team the bye over the Big 12 team. So I think that that's what my thought process kind of is there. So with that all being said, make sure to let me know your thoughts down below. I think this is a total mess for the committee, and I do not think there's a way for the committee to get this right. Let me know what you think the committee will do. Let me know what you think the committee should do and how the ranking should look. And let me know your thoughts and comments down below. With that being said, make sure to like, subscribe, interact with the video in any way you can. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye.